Is the historical black colleges at the 21st century, and we're talking to Dr. AAl-Hadid from Tennessee State University, the chairperson of the Africana Studies Department. And of course, Dr. AAl-Hadid, you were giving us a layout in a real sense between two contrasting individuals in the minds of many people, W.E.B. Du Bois and Mr. Booker T. Washington. Let us give you an opportunity to continue that conversation.
Well, let me recap some of that. In other words, when we get into that great debate between Washington and Du Bois, essentially we're talking about the paradigm that drives the curriculum at the historical black colleges. And I'm not so sure that Du Bois had all the answers in terms of the liberal arts approach. I think today we need a combination of the two because Washington was essentially talking about self-reliance. Du Bois was talking about forging leadership that would interdict at the level of the superstructure of society and government, law, medicine, etc. Now, let me go forward a bit more, too, and give a few statistics. Now we're going to go from history to a little sociology.
Okay, very good.
It's reported that in 1950, 90% of all African Americans that got college degrees, at least baccalaureate degree, got them from historical black colleges. Now, once this integration started, then the statistics start to change. So now I think we probably give degrees or grant degrees to about, well, we have about, I'd say, about 16% of all the students that go to college who receive bachelor's degrees. And therefore, we give degrees to 29%. We have 16% of African Americans in college, and then 29% of them receive degrees from historical black colleges. So we're still very significant. We have very productive, 117 historical black colleges. Now, one thing that I need to get on the record, Doctor, which is I think is very important. A lot of people tend to think in legal circles as well as in lay circles that Martin Luther King somehow would have been in favor of dismantling historically black colleges to the point of them going out of existence. In the book that Dr. Lewis Baldwin and I wrote, which we talked about on one of your shows, Between Cross and Crest, let me just quote directly from King so we can get him on the record. King said here that there is no contradiction in believing in integration and supporting the Negro College Fund. You must remember that although Negro colleges are by and large segregated institutions, they are not segregating institutions. And see, that's very important when we look at the case of Tennessee State. Okay, if these colleges are properly supported, they will serve in an integrated society. Many of these colleges already have white students. It is not true to feel that as soon as integration becomes a thoroughgoing reality, the so-called Negro private colleges will close down. In supporting these Negro colleges, we are only seeking to make sure that the quality and caliber of these schools are of such nature that they will be appealing to all people. So I think that's very important to understand Dr. King's position, because even today, a lot of this litigation that's going on in terms of desegregation, whether we're talking about the consent decree or the stipulation of settlement here and there, whether FAMU, Tennessee State University, they all tend to have the impression that the heart of the matter of desegregation is the existence of black colleges. See, black colleges never practiced segregation. They were the victims of segregation, and they were underfunded. The only thing that we really need to do as far as historical black colleges is concerned is desegregate the money.
Okay.
Desegregate the money.
Okay.
You understand? Not the people. The schools need to remain predominantly African American, as the white schools are predominantly white. Now, the next issue I think we need to deal with is when Black Power came along and people started talking about creating Black Studies programs. Most of your historical black colleges did not respond well to that call. Their attitude was that historically black college is already black, so we don't need to set aside a department or program to have a conversation about black people, as though you learn your culture through osmosis, you know, or through some type of, you know, inconsequential way. But now what we need to do now is to understand that we don't have black colleges. The identity of a college is not determined by the composition, the demographics. It's determined by the curriculum. Historically, black colleges have the same curriculum as white colleges. So until the day comes that we can actually Africanize or African Americanize the core curriculum of these colleges. We really don't have black colleges. Our position is in Africana studies is that education is fundamentally the intergenerational transmission of culture. So when people sit down at a table to plan curricula for colleges or high schools, only thing they're really talking about whose culture is going to be reflected in this curriculum. And the historically black colleges have not really taken that very seriously because they think that to study your own culture, your own history, and your identity, that you can't get a job working for somebody else doing it. I think basically that these colleges should start now looking at a curriculum based on self-determination. We should take our models from the Caribbean and African countries where they're actually using education as a way of building a nation. So we should use education in our community as a way of building our communities, not just advancing the status of individuals, but collectively developing a community. And we can start by developing the communities that surround these historical black colleges, because in most instances these colleges are on the wrong side of the railroad track, and they're surrounded by poverty, unemployment, crimes, and drugs. So we need to develop a curriculum in these schools so we can go into those communities, right around the borders of these schools, and develop them economically, develop them politically, develop them socially, and show that these can be model communities where African Americans can determine their own destiny. And we have to take that position now because the conservative right in the Republican Party and some other right-wing elements are saying now that we're going to get rid of affirmative action, which will make it difficult for the middle-class African Americans to get jobs or go to various colleges, whether they're graduate schools, professional schools, and at the same time they're dismantling welfare, which is having a deleterious impact on the masses of people. So if you're dismantling welfare, which will have a negative effect on the masses of people, you're dismantling affirmative action, which have a negative effect on the educated people. So now what these black colleges need to take the position, well, okay, we need to go back to internal development. The curriculum should be based on self-determination, not begging other folks to help us develop our own community. Now, so that's where the leadership should come from.
And of course, we've got about 30 seconds before we call an end to this particular segment today. But when we come back, let's look at some of the programs that could be used in order to bring about greater support for these institutions to reach out into the various communities. And perhaps if there are some examples of this being done at this time, you can talk about that as well. And of course, we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. The topic is the